Oh my gosh, this is a cool knife. This is an Ontario SP10 Spec Plus Marine Raider knife. Been studying it for a couple weeks. I haven't used it in the woods yet, obviously. That black paint's still on the blade. But I can tell you, this knife is going to perform. At least judging from the experience I have with all my other blades over the last 20 years, I can pretty much tell you this will excel, unless it has something weird about it that I just won't find out until I go to the woods and do some wilderness craft with it. And that could be, I mean, sometimes you just don't find out about a blade until you actually put it into use. But I will tell you, all indications of my study of this blade show that this Marine Raider by Ontario is an incredible knife. Especially, listen carefully, especially at the price of $50. That is amazing. Another high value knife. And you know, I harp on that a lot, but I know a lot of you guys just don't have the money. You know, you might be a Marine, an Army troop, you know, deploying, and I know money's tight. And so I really take pleasure in bringing you guys these high value blades that perform pretty much the same as a custom knife would. Now, you heard me right. I think this will perform pretty much the same as any custom knife out there. I don't care what you stack up against it. It'll probably do about the same amount. Now, I could be wrong. Until I actually took one of those custom knives out and thrashed on it, I couldn't give you the absolute definitive truth. But from what I know about blades, I think this Marine Raider is going to do quite nicely. Why do I like it so much? Well, first off, it's a big knife. I like big knives for survival purposes. Now, that doesn't mean every time I go out in the woods, whether on a day hike, maybe a two-nighter, or maybe a week-long backpack trip, that I'd be taking a knife this big. The truth is, I would not. I have too many other things in my loadout that have to come along. However, there's certain scenarios, maybe like a winter camp out, reference my Cold Steel Adventure video, where I might be taking a sled behind me, and a big blade like this is more doable, that I can take it with, because guess what? I'm not carrying it. I'm snowshoeing in with a sled, carrying a lot of my heavier gear, and this Marine Raider could totally come along. And the reason I like the big blades, and you've heard me say this before in some of my wilderness knife clinic videos in the Rocky Mountains, you'll see more of those in the future, is because it just minimizes our work. When we're up there doing our survival tasks, i.e. Fire making, perhaps shelter making if we didn't bring a tent and it's kind of an emergency situation, maybe I'm making a fire reflector, maybe I'm making a live catch trap for game, and I'll show you how to do that in subsequent videos too. But a large knife like this just minimizes my work. But truth be told, it does come at a price, and that price with SP10 is weight. It is a very heavy blade, specifically 27 ounces. So that's stout. That is under 2 pounds if my math checks, but it's a lot of metal to carry. Now, a good day hiking blade, one that I don't, in other words, a blade that I would take with me if I didn't think I'm going to get in the crap, might be a K-bar. This would be the K-bar utility knife. I have a review on this knife out there, so you can look it up. But it's very nice. This is 15 ounces, and that's with the sheath. So it's much lighter, very capable. However, there are some disadvantages. You can't ask your knife to do everything, and you have to be realistic about what it can and cannot do. This K-bar utility knife, and you've seen some of my thrashed versions, the camless ones specifically, they perform very well. However, they don't have the heft and the swing and hack capability of this very nice and substantial chunk of metal, the SP10. Harder to pack in, lighter to pack in. When I get there, much more capable, a little bit less capable. That's the truth. K-bars are nice. Now, I'm talking survival tasks. If I'm going to say utility tasks, defensive tasks, the K-bar has a lot of capability and a fair amount of reach with its 7-inch blade. But truth be told, if I knew I was getting in a knife fight, dudes, seriously, this would be a good knife to have. Not just survival. I mean, for crying out loud, it's got a 10-inch blade on it. Now, if you saw Fitzen's tank, that I just did, I think yesterday, that's a very substantial chunk of metal. I have no doubts it would lop a wrist off, no problem. But the same can be said for this knife. And it has the advantage of longer reach, at least 3 to 4 inches longer than the tank. And for a blade that weighs less than the tank, I think that's amazing. So both are great blades, but this has a lot of reach for defensive capability. And being that classic Bowie shape, you see how it's upswept here? It's got the typical Bowie clip on it that's very sharp, that would penetrate anything basically that gets in its way. It's going to be a deadly blade. Very nice for defensive purposes. May not have the real quick swing weight because it is heavy. It's a 27-ounce knife. You're not going to be super quick with the knife. That's just an outgrowth of its 1/4 inch thickness. But truth be told, I love that 1/4 inch thickness in a survival blade because it makes it split that wood so much more effectively. It will just blast through wood. It's not a full flat grind on this SP10 Marine Raider knife, but in fact it's very reminiscent of a K-bar grind, at least on the side. You see how they start that edge about halfway, a little bit below halfway down before they start making a run for the edge. That's very reminiscent of a marine knife. The marine combat knife, and what do you know, that's what its namesake is. But the 1/4 inch is still there, and that makes it very wedge-like when it goes through the wood. And actually this angle here would probably be pretty effective going through wood. Again, we're going to prove that in the out of doors. Expect to see some addendum videos posted, maybe to this. I might post them separately on the Marine Raider knife. We're just going to find out in the woods, but all indications point to thumbs up. Now, the steel is 1095. That's a very standard non-stainless tool steel, and I love it. Like I've said in a lot of other videos, I think it holds an edge well, and you know what? It's easy to sharpen. It's not going to take me all day to sharpen it, and just a variety of stones and grits. I can touch it up even in the field with a nice diamond rod if I need to. So I like 1095. It does have the disadvantage of not being stainless, so in a high moisture environment you better be keeping your rim oil on it, or as you've seen me in the woods already, the WD-40, keep that exposed edge oiled up. It'll stain a little bit, but no big deal, it'll still perform. Generally in a high moisture environment I will go for a stainless blade, maybe the Fall Niven A1, just because it's less maintenance, and I have forgotten to oil my blade, and if you forget even for a couple hours in rain, you're going to get rust on your blade. So in a jungle environment, high moisture environment, depending on where you live, 1095 needs some maintenance, but I love it. One reason I love it is because, as I've shown in my wilderness clinic videos, and I'll show you in the future, oftentimes when you're batoning through wood, your blade will contact the ground despite your best effort. Sometimes I'll put a wooden plank underneath to prevent that. But when 1095 contacts the ground, it does not chip. Kind of like D2 chips, kind of like the layered stainless steels chips sometimes. So it's actually a very tough wilderness steel. Man, I love that Bowie shape. It's just nice. It's just mean looking. Great defensive blade. I suspect it's going to be a very good hacker. You really got to hold this blade to appreciate its heft. And more importantly, its forward balance. I love that forward balance, and that's because of the flat sides and the weight that's forward on the blade. It does have kind of an angle here, so we might have to adjust our batoning angle, maybe a little bit tip up configuration as we go down through the log. We'll find that out in the woods. But I dig it. And honestly, when I first saw it online in the pictures, it did not impress me. Not at all. Nice guard here. But I was wrong though. This is an impressive knife. And that's big too. That's a big guard. It'll prevent your hand coming forward if you use it in a thrust attack. We got Spec Plus Raider Bowie SP10 stamped in the tang there. Very nice. I love the handle material that Ontario uses. Very nice. It's very Kraton-like. Nice. They give you a lanyard. The handle itself is very ergonomic, very comfortable. Running out of time, let's look at this sheath. It's kind of a different sheath because of the shape of the blade. It has to be put in sideways, and it's Cordura on the front, leather on the back, and here you can see the welt inside of the sheath, and that prevents your blade from contacting the rivets or the nylon and will make it more durable. No quick attach capability, it's just a leather loop design here. Snaps in securely. I actually don't mind the sheath. Here's your leather loop to slide on your belt. So it could be better, but still not too bad for a $50 knife. Comes with a lanyard. I never use those. So sideways sheath. So out of time, that is the SP10 Marine Raider knife by Ontario. It is an amazing blade. I expect very good things in the woods. Nutnfancy. Oh!